dollar. Dirt and money, no soul. Had to go and get it, ain't no time to kick it. Got a stack of flip for my foes. Dollar. Please tell me you can hear me. Don't turn your back and don't neglect me. Just let me know if you need me. Dollar. Let me watch out for my partners. Keep my money long, get my team strong. Let me run away from my problems.
Yo, what's good, original crew? It's your boy DJ New Kid, your girl.
Sierra Nicole.
Back on the channel, man. Hey, we got Mr. Ballen for y'all. This is a requested video. We got the literal worst day ever. Shout out to the individual that requested this one. We got you. Oh, y'all know, back with more Mr. Ballen. Y'all know y'all favorite storytellers. So with that being said, we gonna hold y'all, man. Make sure y'all check out the links in the description box.
Down below.
You already know where to go. If you want to first support, all you gotta do is check out down below. Also, if you enjoyed today's video,
lock it in with a thumbs up.
That's all we ask, man. But we're gonna go ahead and dive into this story. Hopefully it's a good one. Hey, if it's bad, we don't like it, I'm not taking your request ever again. But, you know, hey, salute to you if it's good. You know what I'm saying? Let's go.
Today, we're going to look at 3 progressively more disturbing stories, and at the end of each of them, I will share the photo or photos that are famously associated with them. But before we get into today's stories, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place because that's all we do, and we upload 1 or 2 times every week. So if that's of interest to you, please offer to give the like button a massage, but apply too little pressure so the experience is unsatisfactory. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's stories. On August 15th, 2003, 41-year-old veteran construction worker Ron Hunt was part of a crew that was building a house in Reno, Nevada. On that particular day, Ron knew before he could do anything else on the job site, the first thing he needed to do was drill a couple of large holes in the ceiling of one of the rooms in this house. And so as soon as he got to the job site that morning, he went in the back of his truck and pulled out a 6-foot-tall stepladder and a drill, and then walked into that particular room. Once inside, he opened up his stepladder and placed it where he wanted it, and then he tested his drill by squeezing the trigger a couple of times. And so once he knew that worked, he climbed up the ladder a couple of steps, not to the very top, but just a couple of steps, and began punching holes in the ceiling with this drill. Now, at first, these holes were very easy to punch through, but when he got down and moved the ladder to another section of this room where he also needed holes in the ceiling, when he got up there, he could not get the drill to go through the ceiling. And he didn't really get it because he knew there was nothing behind the ceiling that would stop the drill from going through, and it was just wood, so it really should be going through. And so he decided he just needed a little bit of extra leverage. He needed to really press on the back of this drill while he's pulling the trigger. And so instead of standing on the 2nd or 3rd rung of the 6-foot-tall stepladder, he walked to the very top of the ladder, the kind of dangerous section you're not supposed to stand on any ladder. And from there, he was in a better position to really push this drill into the ceiling. And so he gets in position and kind of feels like the ladder's fairly stable. And then he lines up this drill where he wants it. He begins squeezing the trigger. And at the same time, he really pushes with all that extra leverage into the ceiling. And as he does that, he feels the drill starting to go into the wood. But at the same time, he's pushing so hard that he's not realizing he's pushing down with his feet at a bit of an angle. And at some point, he pushes too hard and he causes the ladder to spill out from underneath him. Ron instinctively tried to throw the drill away from him, which is a common practice amongst construction workers. You don't want to land on your gear. It could hurt you. But he wasn't able to throw the drill far enough away from him. And even worse, the drill, when it hit the ground, basically right underneath him, it landed on its back with the drill bit pointing straight up into the air. And so when he fell down face first, his right eye socket landed directly on the drill. And so this 18-inch long, 1.5-inch in diameter drill bit impales his head, goes right through his eyeball, goes through his skull, and punctures out the back of his head. And so Ron, he hits the ground, but he's conscious. And so without even rolling over, he just reaches up with his hands and he feels the base of this drill, and then he traces to the drill bit and he feels it going into his eye. And then he feels around the back of his head and he feels the rest of the drill coming out of his skull. And at
Why this gotta be the first one, bruh?
Oh, baby. Oh, my God.
Why this the first one? You don't go in. You gotta go in soft, bruh. You gotta give us like first, bruh.
Oh, my gosh, y'all.
Bruh, you don't
I'm
rush
sitting
this
here
shit.
like, right?
Where's the build-up?
Point, he just starts screaming. The only other worker on the job site at the time was this man named Forrest, and Forrest, who was in a separate part of the job site, he hears Ron screaming, and so he runs over, he goes in the room, and he sees Ron, who's now standing up, cradling the drill base. The bit, the 18-inch bit, is still poking through his head, and so Ron is looking at Forrest, and then turns to the side to show him that he's been fully impaled by this thing, and Forrest is totally horrified at what he's seeing. He can't believe Ron is even alive, but then Forrest jumps into action. He rips his shirt off, runs over to Ron, and kind of wraps it around his head to try to control the bleeding a little bit, and then he tells Ron to stay where he is, and then Forrest ran out of the job site, ran about 1,000 feet away to the nearest house, and he was able to use their phone to call paramedics. The paramedics arrive in an ambulance a few minutes later, and they find Ron sitting next to Forrest, just with this drill still in his face. Ron is very obviously in shock because he's not making any sound. He's totally conscious, but he's just kind of staring blankly, holding on to this thing. And so the paramedics, they go over and they detach the drill base from the drill bit. So all that's left is the actual 18-inch rod that's been pushed through his head. And then they take Ron via ambulance to a local hospital. And from there, they actually fly him in a helicopter to a bigger hospital that can handle this kind of injury. And so when he arrives at this larger hospital, they rush him immediately to the operating room. And at first, the surgeons attempted to cut off either end of this bit, the part that's sticking out the front of his eye and the part that's sticking out the back of his head. But they realized once they did that, there would still be this huge piece of bit that was stuck in his skull, and that would obviously be a huge problem. And so after thinking about it, they decided their best bet was just to unscrew the bit from his head. And so they gave him some morphine, and then over the next couple of hours, the doctors slowly twisted this piece of metal until it finally unwound itself out of his skull. And apparently, as they were doing that, Ron, who was so high on painkillers, was cracking jokes about how somebody needs to come in here and take a picture of me. I probably look so great. And so miraculously, Ron would survive, and he would not even be paralyzed. The worst thing that happened to him is he lost the sight in his right eye. But all things considered, Ron is okay with that. The surgeons would tell Ron that the only reason he didn't die or get paralyzed is because when that drill bit went into his skull, it kind of pressed his brain aside as it passed through. Had it punctured his brain when it went through, that almost certainly would have killed him. But by some unbelievably slim chance, it did not, and he survived. Here is Ron's x-ray.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Before we get into the next story, I want to...
Ooh.
Hey, you who requested this motherfucking video.
My goodness.
Bro.
I had to take a drink. I wish, look. Oh my goodness.
That was crazy, bro.
He was definitely, oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yes, bro.
What you
Wow, bro.
That's what I'm going to say. It's not even luck. I'm going to say, honey, that was super, my goodness.
Boy, I cannot believe or fathom. And then he still got the drill.
And then they're cracking jokes. I mean, when he's so high for morphine, he don't know what's little, but still.
And all you could do was twist it.
It's twisted until it just, Oof, wait.
In 2009, 15-year-old Christina Grimmie finally caved and made her own YouTube channel. For years, her friends and family...
Wait, hold on. Y'all, I'm so discombobulated. Hold on, bro. I'm trying to... Alright, bro. I just hit to write the name.
Year?
No, I'm finna take it
I
back.
think it was 2015.
I'm only, like, because I'm not ready. Hold on, let's go.
In 2009, 15-year-old Christina Grimmie finally caved and made her own YouTube channel. For years, her friends and family had been begging her to do this because Christina had this incredible singing voice that they wanted the world to hear, but Christina had always been hesitant because she was a bit of an introvert. But that year, Christina was feeling more outgoing, and so she took the plunge, she makes this channel, and in July of that year, she uploads her first 2 songs. They were both cover songs, and she was really proud of them, but when she uploaded them, they didn't get very many views. And so Christina probably was not very excited about making more videos. But a month later, she found herself really enjoying the song Party in the USA by Miley Cyrus. And so she was singing it all the time and humming it all the time. And so finally she said, okay, I'll just film myself covering that song. And so she records herself singing this song. She uploads it to her YouTube channel, her 3rd video. And she thinks no one's going to see it because her first 2 videos no one really saw. But this video is different. It went viral almost immediately, and millions of people saw it, and they loved it. Christina couldn't believe it, even though her friends and family had been telling her all along, you have this great voice, you got to share it with the world. That's different than actually seeing the results of the world saying, you're really great, we love your voice. And so she saw this huge opportunity, and she began uploading more and more music to her channel, and more of her videos went viral. Over the next 4 years, she amassed over 2 million subscribers on her YouTube channel. She put out her own album, and she even went on tour with the mega celebrity pop star Selena Gomez. In 2014, Christina auditioned for the TV singing competition called The Voice. This show only allows a very small number of contestants who are all incredibly talented musicians. They get screened really aggressively before the competition even starts. But despite the very intense competition she was up against, Christina still managed to finish 3rd overall in this competition. Now, she might have been a little bit let down that she didn't finish 1st, but that show did wonders for her career because the judges of this competition were mega celebrity musicians, and every time Christina was on TV doing her performance for the competition, the judges would be raving about how talented she was, and that even if she doesn't win this competition, someone's going to sign her. She's so incredible. And then sure enough, shortly after that competition ended, Christina was signed to a major record label. But despite being considered a star by the masses, Christina still very much viewed herself as being a YouTuber first, which meant despite her mainstream popularity and fame, she continued to upload songs and vlogs to her YouTube channel because she wanted to stay connected to her fans. YouTubers often upload videos that appear very amateur, like not professionally produced. It almost looks like anybody could have picked up their phone and filmed that video. And YouTubers tend to be very candid and show their personality in their videos. And so it makes YouTubers, especially these really popular ones, seem very real and raw and relatable. Unlike traditional celebrities that are kind of outside of society, living in their mansions, living a totally elite and different lifestyle. YouTubers feel like they're your friends. And this was definitely the case with Christina. On her videos, she came off as very humble and gracious and kind and friendly, and so her fans truly adored her. By June of 2016, Christina was still growing in popularity when she was asked to be the opening act for this concert in Orlando, Florida that was happening later that month. She agreed.
To be honest, she just had a real successful career, bro. Like, a lot of people wished and hoped they had, like, from getting on YouTube, just doing what you want to do.
Taking a chance and like, okay, I'm just going to put myself out here. Even though I'm out of, out
of my comfort zone.
I'm going to just do it.
To then just blowing up.
And then it didn't go well at first, but she kept doing it because her first video. She
that's what I'm saying.
Like,
then she ended up blowing up and then going on tour with Selena.
That's the top 3 in The Voice, like.
Yeah, like,
you know what I'm saying?
and then still
getting signed to a record label.
And still having the choice to come back to YouTube because she doesn't want to give up where she started, what made her who she is. Yo, that shows loyalty. I ain't gonna lie, like, to be real, YouTubers are some of the most loyal, what people consider, like, celebrities, besides celebrities, because most celebrities ain't as loyal, ain't as willing to be that close with their supporters like YouTubers, you know what I'm saying?
And then on the day of the concert, which was June 10th, she posted to her social media this kind of shout out to all of her fans saying, hey, if you're in the Orlando, Florida area, come out to my show. And then after the show, I'm going to stick around and sign autographs and meet you guys. That night, the venue where this concert was happening was jam-packed, and most of the people were there for Christina, not the main act. And so Christina, she goes on stage, she has this incredible performance, the main act goes on stage, and then around 10 p.m., the concert ends, at which point Christina comes back out from behind stage and went right out into the crowd and began meeting her fans and hugging them and signing autographs and taking pictures. And then at 10:24 p.m., a man who was a fan of Christina's walked down from the back of the venue and kind of awkwardly gestured that he kind of wanted to get a hug. And Christina saw that, and so she smiled and she walked up to him. She opened her arms to give him a big hug. And when she got just a couple of feet away from him, he drew a pistol and he fired 4 shots into her head and into her body. Christina's brother, Mark, he was standing right nearby and he saw the attack. And so he tackled the shooter and he was trying to get control of this guy. But at some point, the shooter managed to wriggle free. Wow. And then he stood up and he kind of walked backwards until he was literally up against this wall looking at the sea of people that are totally horrified. People are screaming and running and no one knows what he's going to do next. And then the shooter just raises the gun, puts it to his head, and pulls the trigger. There were people in the audience who were medically trained who rushed over to Christina and they began performing CPR on her, but there really wasn't anything anyone could do. Wow. She would die that night at the hospital. Her killer was a 27-year-old man named Kevin Loibel. He, like many people, had become a Christina superfan, but his infatuation with her became a totally unhealthy obsession. And when it eventually dawned on him that he most likely would never have a romantic relationship with Christina, he came to the conclusion that if I can't have her, no one can have her. And so when Christina put that post out on social media asking people to come to Orlando to see her show and meet her after the show, he took that as an opportunity to go kill her. And so he lived in St. Petersburg, Florida, which is 120 miles away. Wow. And so he sees this post on social media. He grabs his 2 pistols, some extra ammunition. He gets a large hunting knife, and then he calls a cab. The cab drives him 120 miles northeast to Orlando, Florida. And then he gets into the venue with his weaponry because there weren't metal detectors and no one was frisking people as they came inside. And so he was in the back of the venue during the show. And then when it was over, he kind of lingered back, allowing other fans to go up and, kind of mob Christina. And then when there was a lull and there were less people down there with her, he strode right down the aisle and he ended her life. Here is a photo of Kevin standing in the back of this venue just moments before the show came to an end.
That is so crazy, bro. Like,
That's so
why?
sad.
And I swear I think I heard of this. I swear I think I've heard of this situation. I swear. I want to say, and this just happened in 2016.
Her face looks familiar to me.
No, her face doesn't look familiar to me.
Well, it only looks familiar to me because I used to watch the show. So yeah. I'm thinking like maybe I have seen her face from that.
But the story sounds familiar.
The story, I'm not sure.
It sounds familiar to me. And my thing is, all right, it's a concert, right? Right around this time is when I was big in doing my events and my promotion and stuff and hosting events and stuff. I had security and we pat down. Mm-hmm. I made sure that whether it was a traditional party, or art show, fashion show, whatever I was hosting or being a part of, I made sure, hey, we gotta check people. I was doing that heavy 2015, 2016 because I knew it was high risk. And even to be real, because even when I used to DJ, I used to be so freaked out because we did have a situation like that. I was DJing a house party and somebody pulled out a gun and started aiming at that folks. Yeah. And I straight up balled out of that. And then I knew I was like, bro, me just as a DJ, I need a bulletproof vest or something because you never know what people are on. That's a large event right there.
Right. That's why
Why not have security pat people down or at least a metal detector?
Yeah, I'm just trying to wrap my head around why the venue didn't
Because
that,
technically, from my understanding, the family could have actually sued the venue or the promoter of the event for lack of security.
Well, we don't know.
I don't know,
but
the venue has to, the venue or whoever is over the promotion, whether it's a major company or just a local company or a local guy trying to make some money. You gotta also have insurance for situations like that. Wow. Because that's one thing. Like I my concert tour and promotion class, it was like every event you do. That's why he used to kind of scare me. He was like, you need to have insurance. Yeah. Because I used to talk to him.
Because you just never know.
You never know what type of situation might happen.
And when you got people coming from all over, you just never know what type of state of mind people are in.
Your
like what they coming
to be
there
on
for.
Point. What you need to know every entrance and exit in this building, because it's also when people are, and that's the reason why nowadays they charge people even extra to even come in personal contact with these folks, and before you even get close up on them, they pat you down even more. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not finna.
Like that is so sad. Rob that girl of her entire life, dreams, success, everything, in front of fans, in front of supporters, in front of her brother.
That is true.
Like in front, like you know how traumatizing her supporters,
that is? Her family,
her brother is like,
wow.
What?
All them
that's
people,
crazy.
Bro. That
life
is
gone because what? If
and
I,
then all you
can't have her, no one can.
And then what you do is pull the trigger on yourself as a coward move. That's sad, bro.
In 2019, 21-year-old Samantha Josephson was a senior at the University of South Carolina. She was a brilliant student who aspired to be a lawyer. Specifically, she wanted to practice international law. And so in order to do that, she needed to be able to speak other languages besides English. And so during her college years, she had really leaned into Spanish and become quite good at it rather quickly. During her college Spanish studies, one of her professors was a woman named Daniela Jaimes. Daniela very quickly recognized in Samantha that she had this incredible intellect and work ethic and just knew she was destined for greatness. In fact, she compared Samantha to Amal Clooney, who is George Clooney's wife and is considered to be one of the most famous international lawyers ever. And so just out of a general interest to see Samantha succeed, Daniela offered to Samantha to kind of be there for her if she needed anything beyond just Spanish, that she was there to help her with law school applications, or if she needed advice on something, or if she just had ideas she wanted to bounce off of her, she would be available. And Samantha had taken her up on this offer, and by 2019, in Samantha's senior year, the pair had become very close, forming a sort of mentor-mentee relationship. Early that year, Samantha got accepted into her target law school, Drexel University in Pennsylvania. And so after telling her mother and father, Samantha ran to Daniela's office to tell her mentor the great news. And the two hugged and laughed and celebrated right there in the office. It was clear that everything was falling into place for Samantha, and Daniela was just very, very proud of her. A few weeks later, on March 29th, Samantha decided to go out with her friends for some drinks. Now, Samantha normally spent a lot of her time studying, even on the weekends, but since she was about a month away from graduation and she was already accepted to law school and really didn't have that much work since it was the end of the year anyways, she decided she could cut loose for that weekend. So she, along with her friends, head out to this downtown area called 5 Points, which is right near the University of South Carolina, and it's an area that's full of shops and restaurants and bars, so on the weekends it is packed with college students. Samantha and her friends hop from bar to bar, they're having a great time, and then around 2 a.m. the group found themselves in a bar called Bird Dog, and while they were there, because it was so crowded, the group of friends got separated. Now, initially the friends were trying to reconnect with each other through texts and phone calls, but they were just really struggling to locate each other. And kind of in the middle of all that, Samantha decided that she was just too tired and didn't really feel like staying out any longer. And so she texted her friends and let them know that she was going to head back to her room. So Samantha leaves the Bird Dog bar on her own. She hops in an Uber and she starts driving back towards her campus.
And that's one of the biggest mistakes always, and when especially around the college scene. If you go out as a group, come back as a group. Never, like, that's one thing, like, when we used to do whatever we used to do, especially if we were amongst a group of people, especially when it's guys, but we know we got girls with us. We used to always be like, all right, we got to make sure they get safe, get home safe, because we know like it was this one time, like I told you this story before. This one chick. Normally, she was some of my old roommates' friend from high school. I had randomly saw her coming from the library, and I was headed back to my apartment. I saw her, it was like midnight, and I'm like, hey, you still out? Like, I'm like, all right, be safe, you know what I'm saying? She's like, yeah, everybody's out. I'm like, all right, whatever. Kind of, then, next day, I'm like, yo, did y'all hear somebody got robbed on campus? She went, it was probably about, 1-something. She decided to walk back to the darkest area of campus alone to her dorm. Yeah. And a guy ran up on her with a gun, put it to her. It was like, give me everything you got. And I'm like, yo, I saw you out there with some other guys, because every individual ain't on that same mindset, though. But, at least if you feel the need to, especially guys, if you, if you know you out with some girls, bro, at least help them home.
So the other guys that she was with
didn't help her. She just let her walk by herself. But you should have been like, hey, I'll help you over there. You know what I'm saying? Cause I used to put them in my car. I'm like, I'm gonna drop it all off at y'all dorm door, so y'all got a less commute. So we ain't got to be walking to the darkness. We can actually drive over there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it was always about safety and concern, because college is some of the weirdest times in your life.
Several hours later, after all of Samantha's friends had also finally gone home and then woke up that following morning, they realized Samantha was not in her room. And so they called her, she didn't pick up. They started asking around to other friends who might know where she was, but no one did. And so pretty quickly, Samantha's friends were very, very worried about her, because the last they had seen her, she was leaving the bar on her own. And so they were really worried something might have happened to her. And so by 1:30 p.m. that day, on that Saturday, the day after they had gone out, they called the police and reported her missing. At the same time that Samantha was reported missing, there were these two men who were in their mid-20s that were located 70 miles to the east of the University of South Carolina. They were out in this forest and they were hunting for turkeys. Earlier that day, these two men, whose names were Anders and Ryan, they had had no luck actually finding these birds. And so they were getting frustrated. And so by the afternoon, they had split up and were kind of combing this forest on their own to see if they would have more luck solo. And so Ryan, he posted up next to their truck, which was parked on this dirt road that was butted up against the edge of this big forest. And Ryan, with his binoculars, was scanning out across this field that butted up against the tree line of the forest. And he was kind of scanning the tree line, but he still was having no luck finding any turkeys. And then Anders, he actually had walked into that forest, which was right next to Ryan. And he was just kind of walking around looking for the birds as well. But he too was still having no luck. And so around 4:30 p.m., Anders, who's the one in the forest, he finally is just ready to admit defeat and leave empty-handed. And so he turns around and begins walking out of the forest in the direction of Ryan. And so at this point, he's maybe 100 or 200 feet away from Ryan, but the trees are very thick and they can't really see each other. And so Anders is just kind of walking in that direction. He's not looking for birds anymore, so he's not scouting around. He's just kind of looking straight ahead. And as he's walking, something catches his eye off to the left behind some trees. It was pretty far away, but he instinctively turned and looked, and he couldn't really tell what it was. It wasn't a turkey, but it wasn't anything that should have been in the forest. And so he decided he would go get a better look. And so he turned away from Ryan and went left and started cutting through the trees. And he kept walking until his view of this thing was no longer obscured by trees. And when he got a full look at this thing that had caught his attention, he stopped where he was. He yelled for Ryan, who couldn't see him, but he yelled for him to come into the woods and look at this. And as Ryan is running into the forest to see what's going on, Anders is pulling his phone out and calling the police. When the police finally show up, they find Anders and Ryan, and they're very shaken up, and they're sitting on the back of their truck on that dirt road where Ryan had been. And so the police pull up to them, they speak to them and get directions of how to get to what they saw inside of the forest. And then the police officers walk into the forest, they follow the directions, and before long, they're looking down at Samantha. 14 hours before her body was discovered, Samantha left the Bird Dog Bar and walked out front where there's lots of other students, and she walked to this corner of this road right in front of her, and she hailed an Uber. And then the Uber car pulls up, she hops inside, and then the car backs up and drives away. Except that was not an Uber car. That was a car driven by a 24-year-old named Nathaniel Rowland, who was not an Uber driver. He was a guy who had been driving around 5 Points all night, presumably to try to trick people into getting into his vehicle, believing it was an Uber. And finally, his plan had worked. He had pulled in right in front of Samantha. She thought it was her car. She climbed in without question. And then once she was inside, she couldn't get out again because the doors were child locked. There was no way to open them unless they were opened from the outside. Now, initially, Samantha wouldn't have noticed this. She just sat in the back seat. The car backed up. It started driving, except it didn't drive towards her campus. It drove the opposite direction. And the drive from this bar to the campus was only a couple of minutes long. And so even if she wasn't really paying attention, she would have recognized fairly quickly they were going the wrong way because, again, she's expecting to get dropped off within a couple of minutes. Now, we don't know what actually happened inside that car in terms of how Samantha actually handled this realization that he was taking her the wrong way. Right. We don't know if she confronted him. We don't know if she tried to open the door and then realized it was child locked. We just don't know. All we know is that Nathaniel drove Samantha to some isolated area, most likely 70 miles to the east, near that forested area where her body was found. And then once he parked wherever he was, Nathaniel pulled out a knife and then leapt into the back seat of his car where Samantha was trapped. And he stabbed her 120 times. And then after he was finished stabbing her, it would take Samantha over 10 minutes to finally die. Within hours of dumping her body in the forest, Nathaniel was posting these normal posts on Facebook of him in front of his car and regular status updates. And he was having very normal interactions with his family and his friends, as if he was completely unaffected by this horrible crime he had just committed. Nathaniel was arrested within 24 hours of the discovery of Samantha's body. While he never offered any motive for the crime, it's believed he simply decided that night he was going to go kill someone. And so he just began prowling around for a victim, and unfortunately, Samantha was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Nathaniel was ultimately convicted of her murder and was sentenced to life in prison. Here are the final images of Samantha as she climbs into Nathaniel's car.
Oh, that's how they got him.
Wow.
Wow.
So that's going to do it, guys. If you found the secret in today's episode,
I think I heard about that situation.
I've never heard about this situation. That is so scary.
Because that was one of the first,
so
like,
sad.
when Uber was first, like,
yeah,
start doing all, like, a lot of these people were fake Ubers and all that, and they were really on some kidnapping type stuff and doing all these stuff with these women. I think I have heard of that case before. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I have. Mm-hmm. And it's very sick and sad because why?
What be so like mind blowing to me is the fact that someone could like do something like that and then go and try to, or go and live a life. Like nothing has happened. You all on social media
posting your pictures like I'm cool.
It's a regular day. Posted up at the gas station, talking to friends and like what?
After you just stabbed somebody
over 100 times, and this girl suffered for approximately 10 minutes before she suffered.
And to be completely honest,
but it took her 10 minutes. Like really?
She ain't the first, cause it was too smooth, and the after effect from it was too calm. That's somebody who's done it before and got away with it. Because I was like, how y'all catch him? But y'all got his car on surveillance footage. I'm like, okay. But...
Wow. It could have been the first time.
Nah.
No, it could not be, but it could be the first time. But who knows? Like...
True. Who knows? But just some in my like, that ain't... The way his demeanor was after the fact...
Yeah.
Just... This ain't my first rodeo. Like, I've done this before, several times before. He's too calm. You know what I mean? Like, when you calm about a situation after doing it, you've done it before, and you're like, because that, like, no matter what you do, when you do something, whether it's stealing or doing whatever, after that first time, you kind of in a panic. You trying your heart is, but you ain't taking no photos because you dealing with the guilt. After you done did it a couple times, you know what I'm saying? You like, all right, I'm cool. I ain't really worried about nothing. I'm just.
I don't know. I done heard some stories, but
Heard some stories about
like, I'm just not personal. Like just like reading stuff when stuff come out, or like articles, news articles when stuff happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes it do be people's first, like.
But they demeanor, demeanor don't be like that calm though.
I don't know if it be something that's just like when the elevator going all the way to the top, they just be a little, I don't know. Some screws be loose and they just, I don't know if they like prepare or prep themselves or they get in their head like, I know this is what I'm going to do.
Typically when people say they, like the first time they ever do something like that, it changes them so people can see the change within them too. And so it's to be a little off. He wasn't off. He everything went back to the same. That's what I mean. Even hanging around family, even still riding around in your car should have hella blood.
But is it not being off the fact that you can go back to just
after you done did it a couple times?
That's
you can kind of, you know.
That's weird to me.
But I'm not trying to justify anything with it. I'm just saying
weird.
like.
Yeah, no, you're not.
No, I'm just saying not for you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I mean, like I said, it may not have been the first time. You just never got caught, or it could be the first time. Who knows?
Because most of the time, people.
But like you said, it is kind of was calculated. The fact you rode around so many times, you already had your doors, child. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, everything was already strategic.
I don't know.
You just wait for that one person to open the door.
I don't know, but that's
all
sad.
These were sad, bro.
Yeah.
Yo, you mother that requested this video, bro.
Yeah.
You. It was good. It was a good video though. Good video. But the first one, bro, just devastating to go through that type of experience and be awake for the whole situation.
And then the second one.
Oh my gosh, bro! Because I do remember hearing about that though.
And then the third one.
I heard about this one too.
Future stole from her, life stole from her too. Like,
because at first I thought maybe I said don't tell him the teacher had something to do with it, because the way he was built. I was like, don't tell him the teacher had nothing to do with it now.
Yeah,
I don't know, man. But hey, man, make sure y'all spam us up in the comments. Let us know y'all thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below, man. But as always, I do go by the name DJ. Look at this. We are.
Go and get it. Ain't no time to kick it. Got a stack of flip for my foes. Dollar.